Self-care is about taking care of yourself in all aspects of life. It involves taking care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, every aspect that you can imagine. In today's world, the word self-care is thrown around and many people associate it mostly with maybe taking a long bubble bath or going for a massage or going to fix your nails. In today's episode, I'm going to delve a bit into what self-care really is. I'm going to share a few tips and I'll share my own tips, or I'll share my own story of what I do to make sure that I'm functioning at my best self. My name is JF. Welcome to Wellness by JF podcast. Go on ahead, grab your cup of chai, your cup of coffee, a bottle of water, whatever tickles your fancy. This episode, I'll encourage you to also put your feet up so that we can delve deep into what is self-care. So naturally, we are very busy. What with motherhood, school, going to the office, and women are seen almost as superhumans. If you're not careful, you might find that at the end of the day, you do not even have a single minute to think about yourself or to take care of yourself. What I want us to do for a few minutes today is to see what exactly can we do. I'm also a mother. I work. I hold a 9-to-5. I'm a podcaster. I run a business. It's not easy to do that, and it doesn't make me a superhuman. But there's certain things that I do that ensure that I'm functioning at my best self. Small activities like taking a 20-minute walk every day in the evening does a whole lot of good for me. I also love cooking. And so in a way, after a hard day of work, when I come home, I like to just go into my kitchen. I prefer to be by myself, maybe with a podcast in the background as I prepare a meal for my children. My children give me a whole lot of sense of joy. And so feeding them, talking to them, and interacting with them helps me calm down my mind from the hustle and bustle that has been the day. There's something that I picked up recently, and I must say I was not really pro that particular activity, and that is journaling. At the end of every day, once I put my kids to bed and I'm by myself for that simple 5 minutes or 10 minutes, I like to take my diary, and in as much as I have my spouse, I prefer my diary to be private, and I shared this with him. It's not that I'm writing anything that is bad, but I just like to put my thoughts onto paper. There are certain times I've gone back on my journal and I saw what I wrote and I'm taken aback. Like, wow, what idea I had at that time, have I achieved that? So journaling is something that I do. It's almost as if I'm draining my mind and putting my thoughts and my stress into my diary. Of course, I love the soft life. So once in a while, I'll go for that massage. Every month, I've made it a priority to go and see my technician, to get a pedi, to get a mani, fix my hair, small ideas here and there. And I know that things are tough right now. We cannot always afford to go out or to go for vacations, but it is being intentional. It is in being intentional about what we want to achieve and what we're trying to do that you can now really get into self-care. So I'm going to share a few tips. It's nothing new. It's nothing that you haven't had, but it's just that we do not take it seriously. The biggest tip that you could ever do for yourself to ensure that your body is in its best shape is physical exercise. Just stand up and move your body. You can move it in the house. You don't have to go to the gym. You can move it in the house. You can get up from your bed, clean your house, run after your kids, If they come back from school or you have toddlers, just run after them. If you are able to, you can enroll into a gym, get into exercising. But the best thing that I like that works for women like you and me, especially us women with busy schedules, is the fact that you can get any form of workout that you want on YouTube. It's as simple as just typing it in and you get your workout. And in 20, at most 30 minutes, you've put in your work. Number 2, eating a healthy and balanced diet. And just saying that reminded me of our teachers in primary school. They always used to tell us we need to eat a balanced and healthy diet. But do we ever? Do you ensure you get your vegetables? Do you ensure you're getting your vitamins? Do you ensure that you're getting your proteins? If you're not careful, the way life works, you might find yourself being caught up in a constant cycle where you're not able to stop and catch yourself. And so you have to be intentional. You have to ensure that for every meal, you have the different types of food that is required. Another tip for self-care, and I know moms and working women might come for me and say we don't have the time for that, is engaging in hobbies. There's just something that happens to you once you become a mother or you become a wife and you move or you transition from the girl that you were. It's as if you shelf or that girl dies and all you know now is to take care of your kids, to take care of your husband. But who's taking care of you? We should build up our own hobbies. Let's have activities that are fully up to us that we like. And for me, I would even encourage you not to even have your spouse with you when you're going for those activities. It can be something small, like I recently discovered that I really enjoy crocheting. I'll just take my yarn, sit somewhere in a corner, and I'll crochet. And I can do that for 2 hours, 3 hours. There's even times when after watching too much television and I'm having a headache, I would just take my crochet and do that. I love cooking, so I enjoy cooking. I do that all the time. Come up with hobbies that matter to you. Individual people have individual hobbies and needs. So try and look inwards and find out, what is this thing that I like, and start to do it. Try to leave out your kids and your spouse out of it. It doesn't mean that you'll have all the time in the world, but there's a saying that goes that if something is important, you'll make time for it. I'll just look up my notes as I refresh my thoughts. Practicing mindfulness. If there is one thing that really and has really worked for me, is the practice of mindfulness. Being aware about your surroundings, about your own state of mind, and about the state of mind of the other person. I like to call it the garbage truck phenomena. So imagine this. I get into my car and I'm driving to point B. And as I'm driving, I know especially you Nairobi citizens, you've in one time or the other met with a garbage truck. That lorry that normally comes to pick trash and garbage from all our homes. And when you're right behind this lorry, at the back of it, what you see is these guys, I don't know what to call them, the guys who help in picking the trash. And I particularly noticed that they wear some funny clothes. I think those are their clothes for work. And there's one particular one who every time I see the garbage truck is always wearing some wig. I'll try and get a snap of that guy. And so that's what you can see as you're there in your driver's seat. And what these people will be doing to you, especially as you are the car just right behind them, is they'll be taunting you, especially if you're a lady. So they'll make signs, they'll do this, they'll do that, they'll try to get your attention. The other phenomena that you'll notice is the stench that comes from the garbage truck. Because if you're the car that's right behind the garbage truck, then for sure, that stench is going to hit you. And the last thing that you'll notice, and I pray this doesn't happen to you, sometimes they overfill the garbage truck. So when you're the car that is right behind the garbage truck, some of the garbage and some of the trash can fall onto your car. What I do whenever I'm behind the garbage truck is I ignore all these three phenomena that come from the garbage truck. I can't see the guys who are taunting me. I'll pretend like I can't smell that stench. I'll put my windows up. And no matter anything that falls on my car, I will ignore it. This is the equivalent of mindfulness. What is your own state of mind? How do you feel about the situations that are going on in your life? And so you meet someone, it could be a boss, it could be your partner, it could be your kids, and they all of a sudden come with some energy. Are you able to actually pick up that my kids are frustrated or my boss is frustrated and he's trying to project it on me? And what I'll do in response to that is I'm going to keep quiet and I'll focus on my other projects. If you perfect the art of mindfulness, then you can always ignore the garbage truck phenomena. The other tip that we can do is connect with your loved ones. When I was researching about this episode, my mind was mostly on women like me who are busy in a certain demographic, like about 25 to around, about 40. These are women who are in different stages of their lives. One thing or the other is going on. It's either you're on your first job or you're on your second job, you have a child or you're preparing to get a child, you're married, you've been in marriage for some time. These are the people that were in my mind as I prepared this. And what happens is, with time, you tend to lose connection and you tend to lose time with your old life and your family and what you knew, even your friends, as you try to embrace this new life as you know it. What that will do is that it will lead you to being lonely. It will lead you to feel overwhelmed. Because the truth of the matter is, the woman that you are today is determined by the woman that you were before. Let us try and balance. In as much as many things are going on, we have these great jobs now. We have 2 or 3 kids under our belt. We are married. Let us try to always keep the connection and the relationships with our friends and our family alive. It is whenever you're feeling overwhelmed and burnt out that you'll actually realize that you need your friends, you need your girls, you need someone to speak to. But because you had already burnt that bridge when you got married, you now start feeling funny about reaching out to them. Before you know it, your mental health starts deteriorating. You start questioning yourself, start being anxious. I don't have anyone to speak to. That is one thing that we can totally take out by ensuring that in every step of our lives, even as we go, even as we grow, we take our families with us. We take our friends with us. Yes, we are evolving. The things we do or the things we like are evolving. It doesn't mean that our friends or our family cannot evolve with us. Lastly, I would say, at the expense of being labeled boring, I would say take a break from technology. These things that we always have in our hands can take a toll on you. And for me, I actually realized that what this does is that it takes me away from what is happening around me. There's a story that happened recently. I don't know if you guys have come across it. So these kids were they're in America, and they got onto their school bus as usual to go home. I think the bus was bus number 12. And as usual, and by the way, the kids are between 12 and 15, I guess. So as usual, everybody had their phone. And so it happened that in the bus, the driver had an emergency. He actually got a heart attack. By God's grace, there was one child in that bus whose parents had intentionally said that they would not give him a gadget. So he was actually aware of the environment. He was looking around, he was looking at people, he was looking at the driver, looking at his friends. It is only that boy who realized that the driver was having a heart attack, and it is him who actually went and he stopped the car, the bus, and was able to save the lives of all his friends.
At this point, moving down a roadway in the suburbs of Detroit in a school bus packed with dozens of children, the driver had collapsed. The bus was beginning to veer into oncoming traffic, and panic on board began to explode. From 5 rows back, cue 13-year-old Dylan Reeves, who remarkably grabs the steering wheel, puts his foot on the brake, and brings the bus to a stop.
No, someone call 911 now.
The driver is now recovering in hospital.
I don't care.
When they asked, how come none of you saw what was happening? There was one thing that was in common. All the kids were on gadgets. If kids are that addicted to a mobile phone, how much more are we as adults? I know that as a mom, I try to put in some stringent rules about my kids being on mobile phones. But there's one day my daughter challenged me. She asked me, Mom, you keep on saying I shouldn't be on the phone, but what about you? Does it mean because you're an adult, you're allowed to be on the phone all the time? This challenged me. If you want to live a good life, your best life, it is not in the phone. Neither is it on the TV or Netflix. Your best life is what is around you. When you can actually move away from the phone, when you can move away from the TV, it's when you can go and stand by your window and you can notice a beautiful bird that's flying by. You can notice that today it's not as cold. You can notice pink peonies that are growing right on your fence. You can notice your neighbor. You can notice everything. But so long as you're on phone, so long as you're on your laptop, so long as you're on your TV, you cannot be able to do that. I would also like to mention something about some roadblocks that we encounter when it comes to self-care. And the first is a lack of time. I agree, we are all busy. I agree, we are all chasing the dollar. I agree, life is tough. And sometimes you might find that at the end of the day, you feel like you do not have even 5 minutes to spare. I'd like to encourage you today, as a self-starter, as a woman who's breaking boundaries and barriers, ensure that you're intentional about setting aside at least 20 minutes a day to calm your mind down, to go through your thoughts, to process your thoughts, and to process your next steps. Do it daily, at least for the next 45 days, and get back to me and let me know if that doesn't bring a change to you. We all live in these 24-hour days, but there's some of us who achieve so much, and there's some of us who achieve little or less to nothing. If we become intentional about making time, self-care will not be an issue. The other thing is lack of motivation, especially when it comes to exercise and eating a balanced diet. I was recently speaking to one of my neighbors because we actually have a very nice place where we can go and exercise. We hardly go. The last time we were there, I think was probably three or 4 months ago. And she mentioned to me that we have such a nice place to exercise or to walk or to jog, but we never use it. And I agreed with her, because to keep yourself motivated and disciplined, it's not an easy task. You have to be intentional about it. And it doesn't mean that your path is going to be a straight path. No, it means that you're going to fall a number of times. But whenever you fall, pick it up again. Whenever you fall, pick it up again. And slowly by slowly, So long as you've conquered your mind, your body will follow suit. Even when it comes to to eating a healthy and balanced diet. I know that I've recently become very intentional about the things that I put into my mouth. And I'm very happy to say that I can actually say no to certain foods, to certain drinks that I used to love so much. It doesn't mean I'm a superhuman. No, it means I'm intentional. And I know that, okay, I cannot per se have a soda, but I can have water. And I'm patient with myself. There are days also I feel like having a soda actually. One off. I'll get that cold Coke. And so you can do that. You can just be intentional about it. And you make sure that no matter what happens, you maintain the discipline. So long as you're disciplined, your body will follow suit. So the greatest discipline here actually is a discipline of the mind. Lastly, there's the issue of people thinking that self-care is actually equivalent to pampering or overindulgence. Because we live in an era of social media, whenever someone wants to show that they're doing self-care, that they're taking care of themselves, it would almost start with her in a big towel on her hair and another towel wrapped over hair, and then lighting up the luxurious candles and a bathtub and red roses and, the bath bomb, the pink one, and the water turns pink. But here you are. You don't even have all of that. You only have a shower. Does it mean you can take care or you can take part in self-care? That is the biggest misconception of self-care. Because in the era of social media, everything is about audiovisual. You need to see or you need to hear. The real meaning of self-care is creating habits that take care of you or ensure that you're living your best life physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially. I forgot to mention a very important part of self-care, and that is spirituality. Do you have a relationship with your maker? Do you pray? I know many people don't like to speak about it, especially in this time and age. But I'll assure you, a word of prayer goes a long way. The good book says that if there's a man to pray, then there's a God to answer. Take time. I love reading the Bible. It has nice, encouraging verses and stories. Sometimes whenever you're feeling low or anxious, just take your Bible. We live in an information era. Just Google verses to talk about anxiety, verses to talk about depression, verses to talk about poverty, verses to talk about being my best self. Google verses about boundaries. You'll find them right there. After 20 minutes or 30 minutes, you don't have to read it like for 3 hours. 5 minutes is enough. Read it, encourage yourself, say a word of prayer, and move on with your life. I hope that this episode has been informative. I always love to see your reviews and get your comments and share your stories, or maybe let me know which other points I've left out. Do ensure that you subscribe, you like, you follow. This has been our wellness podcast. My name is JF, and remember to always push through that.